So you can't have glass bottles of cups in Yankee Stadium, which is kind of weird. But if you go to the Hard Rock in Yankee Stadium, they actually give you a glass cup, but you can't bring it to the stadium because it's in the box. You can't take it out of the box, but you can take it out of the box. Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Well, welcome to the 2026 baseball season. I know there's been some spring training, but we're actually in the regular season mode right now. And just for added bonus there, we are on the 11th season of Section 420 Talkin Yankees now. I don't have 11 fingers, so I can't really flash that. So just imagine a big 11 there. That's what he got it for you. But we'll kind of look at what we call the varsity team at the beginning of the season. Kind of the sucky part of the ending of spring training is that you kind of have to send guys to the minors there, guys that are competing for jobs there. And you like some of the underdog stories, the guys who maybe made it, but of course you have some guys that you expected to make the team, not making the team. So if you kind of may miss some of that there, we'll kind of go back a little bit because maybe haven't get a chance to do it here for you folks on YouTube and TV there. So we'll kind of look at those players that were optioned to AAA. I mean, they weren't really shockers there, but we'll analyze probably why those decisions were made. And of course, Aaron Judge, as he leads the team through this 2026 season, finally trying to get his first ring there in the World Series in the big show there. A little bit of all news, but of course we all know Team USA got bounced out by Venezuela. Then of course we heard some flack from Aaron Judge that he can't win the big one. Obviously, as we all know as Yankee fans, doesn't have a World Series ring yet there. And then of course did not have a good ending of the World Baseball Classic. Then we can hear these murmurs that, well, Judge can't win the big one and all this stuff. He's great in the regular season, blah, blah, blah. I kind of addressed it on the audio podcast, but forget it, you folks, whether on TV or on YouTube, kind of have the argument with you folks as well, where I think that's kind of a bit of rubbish, as the British would kind of say there. So we'll kind of look at that argument as well. So a lot of cool stuff for you. Like I mentioned before, we have the audio podcast version of the show. So yes, we are here in the total 11th season of Section 420 Talkin Yankees, but just a couple of years ago, we also started the audio podcast. So, you want to get my takes on things quicker. You don't have to wait a whole week for a new episode. Wherever you get your favorite podcast, look for Section 420 Talkin Podcast. Make sure you subscribe there. And again, we have a whole regular season ahead of us. You won't miss any of the action, fun analysis by me. So if you haven't done it yet, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel there. And if you're watching on TV, you've got double duty, as I always say. Go get the audio podcast, get the YouTube channel as well. Set yourself up for a successful baseball season. Now, as the Yankees kind of thinned out the roster to get it ready for opening day, there's some players that unfortunately had to be reassigned or designated for the minors, mainly AAA there. And a couple of these moves we knew were kind of going to happen there, but we didn't get a chance to address it back then, so we'll address it now. And of course, probably the biggest one, probably the most controversial one, because fans kind of have mixed results about it, was the Jason Dominguez being optioned down to AAA. Now, of course, Jones happened about a week or two before that, so again, we kind of knew that was going to happen there. Really kind of a long shot of him making the team. Yes, we were impressed with the 450-foot home runs, but nevertheless, again, there's only so many roster spots there, and it's come down to if you have two young guys like Dominguez and Spencer Jones there, it doesn't really, it's not really good for them just to be sitting on the bench and just getting maybe one start a week and winning one or two at bats maybe, or pinch run there. It doesn't really serve them well. I mean, you want those players to get pitching every day, and the only opportunity they're going to get that is by playing in AAA there. So it's kind of, we knew it was going to happen, and it did happen, and it did happen to Dominguez. So this happened back officially on March 20th. He was optioned to AAA's Scranton. That's where he'll start the season. At some point maybe it could come up again. Someone gets injured, someone just falls flat on the faces, can't produce there. I mean, again, it's not the end of his Yankee career there. Of course, a lot of fans been kind of saying that, but again, it just kind of makes sense for this time now, just because things are filled up right now. Of course, Trent Grisham taking the qualifying offer to $22 million. He's in center field. Now, after the 2026 season, I've been saying that he's going to be gone after that. And of course, the Yankees signed Cody Bellinger to took the entire off season for that dramatic thing to take place there. At least he got him locked in for 2 more years, 26 and 27, making about $28 million per year. So, those spots are going to be clogged up now. So there's really no room for the young guys. But under normal circumstances, Dominguez would have made the team. So you want to look at the spring numbers: 16 games, had 45 at-bats, a .333 batting average, which, again, I was raising some eyes there. 15 hits, 3 home runs, 10 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, and seeing some of the speed we also saw back in 2025. 4 walks, taking his walks. An on-base percentage of .380, which is a little bit more than his career average. 6.220 slugging, and an OPS, a Judgian type OPS of 1.02, 1,020. So again, he had a great spring in normal circumstances. He would make the team there. It's just the problem is you just spent money on Cody Bellinger for left field there. So I don't know. There's no room where you're going to put Jason Dominguez. Of course, we have Stanton back this season with his elbows healthy and hitting some long balls, looking really good right at least to begin the season. So again, there's no room for Dominguez. So where are you going to put the guy? And of course, with Spencer Jones, if Dominguez wasn't getting, Spencer Jones definitely wasn't getting. And it goes to the case there. Well, are they stunting these two guys' growth? And is this going to be another Clint Frazier, Miguel Andujar situation? But okay, let's go back to the offseason. A lot of the fans have been complaining about Hal Steinbrenner and the Yankees. Oh, they don't spend money, and Hal's not like his father George, and the Yankees are running him back and all that stuff. Well, let's just say, they didn't resign Bellinger, and actually they kind of let Grisham just walk away, and they kind of went with the two young guys. You can flip-flop, but let's say Spencer Jones is center and Dominguez in left field. Okay, you could have done that, and, Matt, maybe that would have been interesting to see how it turns out, but a couple of things. Number one, the fans would not have accepted that, even if they say they want the young guys to thrive there, because they say, oh, you're not spending any money, you're being cheap. That's what they're doing. So the Yankees would have heard the flack on that end. And number two there, these are two young guys. These are two essential pieces, specifically center field. And not only offense, but defense. We know Dominguez's defense in left field is not good. Spencer Jones, we don't really know yet. That's a big question mark. And again, that's a big responsibility, center field for Yankees, especially at Yankee Stadium there. So you can't really go into a season and having two young, really still kind of unproven guys there as a main artery part of your outfield there. So, the wise choice was to go with Bellinger and Grisham. Yes, it's very expensive. Again, Grisham making $22 million, Bellinger making about $28, $29 million, where you had two young guys making nothing there. So financially, maybe the Yankees should have went with the young guys, but to be responsible, again, offensively, you are better off with Grisham in center and Bellinger in left field. And defensively, of course, you're better off with Bellinger in left field and Grisham in center there. And of course, Bellinger can flip-flop and play almost any outfield position as well as a little first base. But the responsible thing for Brian Cashman and the Yankees would do was to get Bellinger for left field and Grisham in center. I know we like the young guys and you want to see them get an opportunity and stuff. And it can still happen there. And I wouldn't go getting crazy like this at the end of the Yankees' career and the Yankees are going to trade them away and their value's down and all that stuff. The Yankees kind of had no choice there. But let's say the Yankees did decide to not sign the old veterans and let the two young guys out there. Fans would be going crazy. Oh, they're not spending money. The Yankees are being cheap and all that stuff there. So either way, the Yankees would hear the flack. But they had to do the more responsible thing there. And the more responsible thing is have Spencer and Dominguez in AAA and just wait for things to open up a little bit. Again, it's a long season. People get hurt. We'll see what, again, you don't want to root for injuries because that's not really good news for the Yankees, but it does happen. Or maybe just Trent Grisham just stinks this season. We just don't know how it's going to work out. I mean, he had a 34 great season, had a career year last year, but maybe this season he just stinks, and the Yankees got to just basically bench him, and then maybe that opens up an opportunity where Bellinger goes to center field, and then you bring up either Jones or Dominguez to play left field. That could happen. And of course, we have Stanton, who again looked good this spring, especially driving the ball. It looks like even with those hurt elbows, he still could produce. But again, he's liable to tweak a hamstring or an Achilles at any moment. He could go down. Okay, great. You could put Judge as the DH. That opens a spot there. So it's not going to write these guys off. You have a long season there, so I'm going to go crazy. And if the Yankees want to make some move there, I think that, commodity, Dominguez and Spencer Jones still have some commodity there. You can make a deal if you want to include them in a package. I wouldn't go that farther. So things open there, so I wouldn't complain. But again, to have someone like Spencer Jones make the team and put him out there in the center field where, okay, yeah, he hit a 450-foot home run against a guy that's pitching in Double-A, but can he handle major league pitching on a normal basis where he's being scouted and his adjustments made to him? Can he adjust to the adjustments? We don't know like that, and you can't just put him out there to start your season center field there. It's just irresponsible. And another tough decision the Yankee front office had to do with Oswaldo Cabrera. Again, a fan favorite, but of course, when I look production on the field, really hasn't been there. Unfortunately, got hurt last season, with the ankle. Now he came back this spring there, wasn't able to get in the games right away. Then even when he did, went a few games without getting a hit. All right, finally did get an RBI there, but really not enough. You want to see what you want to keep him on the team there. So this was back March 21st, retroactive. Had an option both. Him, Cabrera, and Max Schumann, who we highlighted last time on this show there, who might have been an underdog to make the team, maybe because he was hitting 400, and of course, just his versatility of playing multiple infield positions and outfield positions. You thought maybe we have a shot to make the team. Unfortunately, both Cabrera and Schumann optioned to AAA, as well on the same day, they re-signed Paul DeJong and Seth Brown. Now, DeJong and Seth Brown were on minor league deals so they wouldn't have to be options. They were basically this sent direct to minors there where it doesn't really affect any options or anything like that. And of course, Randall Grichuk, who the Yankees kind of picked up late during off-season, kind of early spring training. You kind of figured the inside track, so it seemed like they really wanted the guy. Again, we heard rumors that they tried to actually get him last off-season, couldn't do it. Brought in the veteran here, 34 years old, and again, obviously what he brings you is a right-handed bat there, but again, he can also play all outfield positions as well, so gives you some flexibility for Aaron Boone there to someone to come off the bench. But the Yankees seemed really high on him, and even with him, I mean, it almost seemed like he had the job, even if he couldn't hit it all there. But Aaron Boone announced that he was going to make the opening day roster, so we all kind of knew that, because with that being the case, someone like Schumann or Cabrera was probably not going to make the cut there, and those two weren't going to make the cut there. And for Oswaldo Cabrera, I kind of mentioned it previously here on the YouTube and TV episode that look, he just hasn't done much. We were excited when he first came up in 2022 there, but he's just kind of been a mediocre player, and he's not really good where he could start there and compete for a starting job there. So he does give you some speed. He can play multiple positions. You like a switch hitter there, but in terms of production, he just unfortunately hasn't done that much. You want to keep him on the team there, and it seemed like he was going to clog and take an opening a roster spot, so really had no choice to send him down to AAA. Can an opportunity come up for him? Yeah, maybe, but we've probably seen what we've seen from him, and it's just probably not as good enough to be an everyday major league player that you would want to keep here on the major league level. Now, for Yobat Vivas, who we saw a little bit of last season, of course, most infamously for getting picked off by Acuna by that throw and kind of really get embarrassed. Probably one of the most embarrassing moments in Yankee history. Nevertheless, won't be on the team anymore now. They didn't have to option him. He actually had no options left, so the Yankees decided to trade him to the Nationals. That's for Sean-Paul Leonan, right-handed pitcher in the minors. Of course, Vivas, played a little second base, for the Yankees, when Jazz went down a little bit, but didn't give you much with the bat. 29 games, only hit 161 with a 516 OPS. The problem was he just had no options left, so what are you going to do with him? So the Yankees had to put him on the waiver wires. Maybe some team would pick him up, but before going in that direction, the Yankees decided, let's get something for him, so trade him to the Nationals for Sean-Paul Leonan. And for the 21-year-old, again, hard to tell if he's going to pan out. Again, someone who hasn't pitched much, right-handed pitcher, pitched part of single A, high A, and triple A, combined with all that, 19 games, 15 games started, so I guess they're trying to groom him to be a starting pitcher. 3.03 ERA, respectable, even though it's in single or high A, most of that, but they like his swing and miss stuff. 106 strikeouts in 77 and a third inning. So this guy's like averaging almost 2 strikeouts per inning there. So, good chip to pick up there. And Vivas, again, there was really no room for him, so it kind of makes sense. At least you get a right-handed prospect out of it. And a pitcher who we highlighted on this previous episode here on the YouTube TV show, that's Carlos Legrand. I mentioned that there'll be no shot of him obviously making the team as a starter. That's what they're trying to groom him for. There's no room there. We got the Yankees for locked in, and plus there's even competition for a 5th starter there. So where are you going to put the guy? And plus, again, he only pitched in Double A last season, had a 7.6 record. So, we've been impressed with the stuff. We saw the 102 mile per hour fastball. I love his breaking pitches, but throwing them for strikes there, but not enough. And you want to give him some more fine tuning until finally somewhere down in the future, he could be an asset for the Yankees. But if you want to look at the spring, again, had a decent spring. 5 games he pitched in, 2 of those he started, 1-1 record, not going too much. I wouldn't go crazy about the ERA, 4.96. Again, he got tagged for 8 runs in his final game against the Cubs there, so that's where a lot of that 4.96 there. But did have a good spring, but you like the swing and miss stuff. 17 strikeouts in 16 and 1/3 inning there. But he's just not ready yet. But obviously he's probably going to be, he's going to go to AAA. They optioned him in AAA on March 19th there. Let him get some seasoning. Maybe next season, the season after that, that's when you'll finally really see him in the Bronx. And I want to use time this episode to address the whole Aaron Judge situation. Now, it's a little bit old news at this time. This goes back a couple of weeks ago. As we all know, Team USA got bounced out of the finals against Team Venezuela by a score of 3-2. But of all the focus was on Aaron Judge specifically, not only us for Yankee fans, but of course he was the captain of the team. And when they needed the big man the most, he had an awful game. Went 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. And even the game before that, Team USA beat Team DR an exciting 2-1 win. But even that game, there was a moment early on, second and third, nobody out, and he strikes out in a big spot against teammate Luis Severino. And of course, in the wake of that, here, especially in the New York market, he had to hear all the guff, all the rough, and all this, whether it's on the newspaper or sports talk radio, that we have Aaron Judge, he does all this stuff in the regular season, but he comes up small in the big situations. He chokes, when the stage is there on the big stage, and he's never going to win a championship. The Yankees are never going to win with him. All that type of flack there, which, I mean, you got to understand why it's staying up to this point. In his career, yeah, he did make one World Series appearance, but the Yankees kind of got beat up a lot by the Dodgers. That really wasn't a close World Series. I mean, the Yankees got bounced in 5 games. Yeah, you can analyze some of those games specifically, but really, again, it just seemed like that, Aaron Judge is never going to, be able to lead the team, never going to get a championship, all that stuff like that. Well, I thought the whole thing was kind of nonsense. Now, yes, we all know that maybe he hasn't been at his super greatest in the postseason there, but a lot of factors you got to work into it, and the fact that he's like not clutch and he can't, do good in a big spot there, and he comes up short all the time there. That's not true there. Now, let me just break down a few things. First of all, there, first of all, let's look at some of the accolades he's done. He's won 3 MVPs before he's gotten to the age of 34. It means you're the most valuable player. It means like you're the most clutch player for your team as per other players for their team in the whole league there, and he's won that 3 times there. So to say he's like not a big player, not a clutch player in a big moment, well, like to get an MVP award, you kind of have to be like sort of quote unquote clutch the whole season there. And as you know, and in order to get the MVP, you got to have a good batting average. You got to drive in a lot of runs. You got a lot of hit home runs. You got to have a lot of RBIs. You got to do that the whole season, not just have a couple good months. So to do that a whole season and keep that with all the pressure, especially when you get down to those last few weeks of the season, where like kind of look what happened end of last year, like him and Cal Raleigh going back and forth there, and it seems like Cal Raleigh maybe wilted a little bit under that pressure. And Aaron Judge, I don't know, even if Cal Raleigh would have gotten more than 62 home runs, still I think Aaron Judge is kind of the surefire MVP there. Like, but you still have to keep that up throughout the end of the season there under all that pressure there. So that is a sort of a clutchness. And again, this guy's won 3 MVPs already. And if you didn't go through a wall at Dodger Stadium, in 2023 there, he's probably looking at 4 MVPs there. So to say he's just not a clutch player, not a winning player in the big spike, that's just kind of ridiculous. Just because you want to analyze one at bat in the mid-October there, and you want to make an assessment based on that. But the whole thing is kind of ridiculous just on that end alone. But look at some other things he's done. Let's look at, as I mentioned before, the 62 home runs there going back to the 2022 season. I mean, the guy had all the pressure in the world on him. Very easily could have wilted and faulted, man, especially towards the end. We saw how it was, whether it was at home, on the road. You got every fan in the stadium out with their phones out, watching every at-bat, waiting for that home run, him being asked about it. You have the Maris family, his parents in the audience, like every game following around there. I mean, that is kind of a pressure there. Now, for that 60-second home run, which was seemingly not going to happen there for a moment, now I think he did get a bit of a cookie when he did hit that 62 home run in Texas still, but to even get to that point there, that's a great deal of pressure to do that, and the guy did do that and surpass Maris' 61 to at least have the record for the American League. Now, obviously, Maris' son and some other people in baseball purists, they don't put much stock in the McGuire 70 or the Bonds 73, and they kind of figure Aaron Judge is that quote-unquote real single-season home run record person. Well, obviously, that's not going to be the case because still it's Barry Bonds, but still, we always kind of look at Aaron Judge as kind of the real one because obviously McGuire and Bonds, there's been some PD allegations with those two. But nevertheless, that's a pressure-packed situation. The guy to go through that, have the weight of the world on your shoulders, and he does break the record finally. So, man, that is kind of clutch, as you would say, again, with all the pressure on you, every single pitch, all the media hype, all that stuff there. And then, there has been individual moments, and I will go through Aaron Judge's postseason numbers, but to say that he never did anything big or never had a big moment in postseason, that's just not true. Now, he hasn't had a big string of moments that leads to a championship, okay, and that's really, I think, what the problem is. But again, he's had a couple of big home runs, and you want to just go back to the 2024 series against Cleveland, divisional series there. In the 9th inning against Clase, who was probably at that point maybe the best closer in baseball, maybe second or third if you want to throw some others in there, but still very top closer. Guy's throwing 100 miles per hour. Aaron Judge hits a home run in the 9th inning, and of course to get the Yankees going there, and of course Giancarlo Stanton follows up with another home run, and then the Yankees were able to tie the game 3-3. Now they lost in the extras. That's where Weaver gave up the go-ahead game-winning home run to Noel, but still that's a clutch home run in the 9th inning against a premier closer. So I mean that is a big spot that he came through. You want to go a couple of seasons before that, 2018, that's when the Yankees were going against the Boston Red Sox. Against Greg Kimbrell's game in the 9th inning, Yankees down 5-3. Aaron Judge leads the inning off, hits a home run to at least bring the Yankees from 5-3 to 5-4. Again, that's a clutch home run against a top tier, one of the top closers in baseball. The guy's pumping 100 miles per hour there, and Yankees at least get the score to 5-4. Now, unfortunately, Stanton whiffed after that. Now the Yankees did anything, and the Yankees ended up losing the game. But still, that was a clutch home run in the 9th inning on the road against a closer there. So the fact that he hasn't had any, though, that's not true there. And if you want to go back to the Yankees' latest campaign against Toronto, now everyone want to look towards Game 1 there, where you had that bases-loaded situation against Kevin Kosman. Worked the count to 3-2. Yes, he did swing outside the zone there, but of course with 2 strikes, full count, you do have to protect the zone. He usually has a very good eye at the plate. There, yes, he did go outside a little bit to swing for that, but also same thing too. With 2 strikes, you kind of have to protect the plate there as much as possible. And yeah, you're inclined to swing there just to foul a ball off. Unfortunately, whiffed. So yeah, that was this big spot. He came up empty. But if we could fast forward, go to Game 3 at Yankee Stadium. That at bat hit against Volin. Again, the Yankees are down 6-3. 2 runners on. He's 0-2 in the count. 0-2 in the count against a guy who's throwing 100 miles per hour, and that's in Volin there. And he gets a pitcher on his hands, and I don't even know how to do this, and probably Aaron Judge is the only player in baseball to be able to do that. Hits a home run, just hit the foul pole in left field. The Yankee Stadium ties the game at 3-3. So Yankees down 6-3. Hits a big 3-run home run to tie that game, and the Yankees would go on to win that game. That'd be the only win the Yankees had against that Toronto in the divisional series. So again, that's a clutch postseason home run, as clutch as it get. I was actually there to see that. The place was shaking in the upper decks there. So the fact that this guy can't hit in a big moment, a big spot there, that's not. This is nonsense. This is ridiculous. The only problem is he just hasn't had that really. Couple of postseason run where it leads to a championship. So of course people just want to say, oh, he can never win the big one. And we remember as Yankees fans, look at A-Rod. First couple of seasons he was there, he had the same thing put on his head. Had some yips and some big spots in the postseason to do great there. His first 5 seasons, again, Yankees without a championship, and then finally comes the 2009 series where it just clicked in, and maybe this will be the season it finally sort of clicks and all comes together for Aaron Judge there. And of course, what A-Rod did in 2009 for the Yankees, big clutch home runs against the one against Joe Nathan, and then again against the Angels, big 9th inning home runs there to tie the game up, and of course the Yankees would go on to win a championship, and of course we'll say A-Rod, finally A-Rod got the monkey off back and did that. So that's really what the problem is with Aaron Judge. He just hasn't had that long run in the postseason that would lead to a championship. But the fact that on an individual basis and an at-bat he can't come through, he doesn't come through, that's just not ridiculous. That's not true there. And if you want to look at the postseason resume overall, so 8 years so far he's been playing there. He's had 17 different postseason series. Now the batting average, hasn't been great, 236. Again, it's not super atrocious. It's kind of not good. It's not super atrocious. But also a couple of things too, like you're in the postseason, you're going to face better quality pitching. You're not going to get cookies down the middle for the most part there. And plus it's Aaron Judge. He's got a big target on him. A lot of pitchers are going to pitch him very carefully. They're not going to want to let Aaron Judge beat them. So, he's going to get tougher pitches to hit than your typical player who, some mediocre, right fielder, some mediocre, shortstop that, all right, maybe a pitcher will lay one down the middle there. Aaron Judge is not going to get those pitches. He's going to pitch very closely, very tight, very tough there. So you kind of expect them to have like a 236 batting average. And he's not a speedster. He's not going to slap a ball in the infield and beat out beat out the throw to first base. That's not his game there. So like with him, he's just going to hit the ball hard somewhere, or he's going to strike out or walk there. That's pretty much the only 3 things that can happen to Aaron Judge, because that's the type of player he's in. But let's go look at some of the other numbers. So far in a total 65 total games. That's 246 at-bats. Now, in those 246 at-bats, 58 hits. So it's like 1 for 5, 1 for 4, which kind of makes, that's where you kind of see where the 236 batting average is, but has produced some power, 17 home runs, 41 RBIs, OPS, so it's on base plus slugging of 822. Now, we're used to Aaron Judge having an OPS like of 1,000. That's like normally his career in the regular season. But to be at 822 in the postseason against tough pitching, that's still pretty good overall there. And I know it's playing around with the numbers a little bit, but if you want to equate that pace of 65 games to a 162 game baseball, which would be a baseball season, you would take the 65 games, multiply 2.5, that gets you 162.5. So again, that's about a baseball season, 162 games. If you equate that, he would have 174 hits, 41 home runs, and 102 RBIs. So you get me a baseball player who, over a course of 162 games, which is a full baseball season, hits 41 home runs and has 102 RBIs. You would say it's a really good baseball season. Definitely an all-star and probably an MVP type of candidate. Batting average is hard to tell. That could fluctuate a little bit, but he's on his type of pace for that type of season there. So the idea is a complete no-show in the postseason. That's not accurate. And you want to just compare his numbers to some other Yankee greats, at least in recent history. Look at Derek Jeter, of course. Obviously he's like the Rolls Royce of Yankee postseason lore, at least of this generation. His on-base percentage is 347. Aaron Judge's is 346. So for all the hoopla and all this flack you want to give, Derek Jeter and not give Aaron Judge, their on-base percentage for the two of them are identical. Now, yes, Jeter obviously has the rings, he has a higher batting average and all the hoopla, stuff like that, but their on-base percentage is about the same, more or less. They don't think that. And like another Yankee from that era that we kind of revere and has a good postseason resume, that's Bernie Williams with his 22 career postseason home runs. That's kind of Mickey Mantle-ish. Well, Aaron Judge has 17, so Judge is just 5 home runs behind that. And at this point right now, Aaron Judge, he's 33. I mean, between now and when Judge finally hangs it up, and he's of course going to be playing with the New York Yankee organization, the New York Yankee organization is going to be in more postseasons in the year to come. I'm pretty sure Judge is going to be able to surpass Bernie Williams at 22. So what are you going to say about that? So again, Bernie Williams, who we look at, wow, what a great postseason resume. He has all the home runs. Well, Aaron Judge is only 5 behind. He's going to surpass that at some point there. So what are you going to say at that point? So again, you look at the numbers, say he's a no-show in the postseason. That's just not accurate at all. And some other things you want to consider with Aaron Judge, like he's been on, obviously he's gone to the postseason a number of times there, but he really hasn't been on great teams. You can look at someone like Jeter, look at Bernie. The reason they've been able to put the numbers they have and had some of those big moments, or you look at a big moment like the Tino and Brocious home runs against Bing Young Kim against the Dodgers, like. You also have to be on a good team, a great team to be in a lot of those spots to make that happen. Like Aaron Judge has been on good Yankee teams that have made the postseason. He hasn't really been on great teams, especially if you look at the pitching staffs at all. He hasn't had great teams with great pitching staffs. I mean, we all look at Garrett Cole, but other than Garrett Cole, the Yankees have been pretty much thin compared to what, look at Derek Jeter had. I mean, he had David Cohn, Andy Pettitte, David Wells, El Duque, Roger Clemens. I mean, he's had top pitches for a long time to put him in those good positions, to be in a lot of those games, to do a lot of good things. Aaron Judge really hasn't had that. I mean, he kind of got like the tail end of Tanaka, Severino up and down, you got Garrett Cole, okay, but the rest of for the most part of his career, he hasn't had great Yankee pitching really extended, give him deep postseason runs. Only 2 deep postseason runs he had was, of course, the 2024 World Series, and then his first full season as a rookie in 2017 when they went to Game 7 against Houston. Other than that, Aaron Judge really hasn't had that many deep postseason runs to do a lot of great things there, so you have to take that into consideration. And let's just throw out a Derek Jeter. Let's say Derek Jeter, instead of coming up in 96, he came up in 2017. From 2017 to now, if Derek Jeter would Derek Jeter have the type of numbers and the rings and all the accolades and all that stuff he would have? Of course not, because he's going to, have someone like Jordan Montgomery pitching for him, or Domingo Germán, being good and then being hurt for 3 years and then having me kicked off the team, and then Jeter had the benefit of being on great teams with balanced lineups and great starting pitching staffs. Aaron Judge has kind of been the whole team. I mean, he's been playing with guys like Aaron Hicks and Josh Donaldson, Joey Gallo, and kind of Rizzo on his last legs there. So he hasn't really been on great teams there. And then the whole team has been Aaron Judge, and that's kind of that's why he's won so many MVPs there. So he also has to take that in consideration. So the whole nonsense that him, I got too much hoopla, and even his first spring training back there was some murmurs of boos in the crowd. I didn't hear too much there, but just the whole thing that this guy's not clutch, he's not going to win all that stuff there. He's going to be like Dan Marino or Patrick Ewing and stuff like that. I mean, could that happen? Possibly there, but you can't really put that on Aaron Judge there. And if you're just going to pick point 1, 2 at bats there to make the whole judgment there, it's not fair for him there. Again, now the only difference that now we like about this 2026 season, finally it seems Aaron Judge will have a potentially great pitching staff to be a part of, which should give them a long postseason run, and maybe that finally does give them some opportunities and moments to sort of carry this team to a championship. So once they do that, the stuff will quiet down. We know the potential of Garrett Cole coming back soon, Rendon will be back soon. We know what Max Fried could do, and of course Cam Schlitt we know what he could do, and of course it all works out in the 5th starter spot where the Luis Seal, Will Warren, the work that had there, but this potentially here in 2026 season, finally Aaron Judge could have a great pitching staff potentially, and finally again, hopefully this is the year it clicks in for him. So the season's here, but make sure you got your listening gear wherever you get your favorite podcast. Search for Section 420 Talkin Yankees, the podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll catch you next time.